Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Lili Nishmasimi Mirosi Rus Bas Mordechai. Last night, if you see on the screen, we had I have to do this. We had the famous chasana of Peretz Chaim Levin. And if you look at the picture, you'll see he brought to the chasana trying to recruit people. Over here we have Akiva, Yisrael Shalitsky, Akiva Ziegler, Peretz Chaim Levin, and Sol Rosenberg. He's Nechama Rochel. He does hundreds and hundreds of hours of work for MDY. Doesn't want any recognition. If anybody ever got a Gemara from Art Scroll, it went through him. And here we have someone that looks like the Five-Town dentist. Let me see your thing for a second. Here we go. We have here with us, what's your name again? Shmari Zellingold. And your son is doing tainus, not on a Daf Yomi pace, but on a pace. He does it with the Naki radio and a little bit of online. I have some pictures here, which I didn't print. I'll explain in a second why. Not because of him, because of me. Anyway, so I want to give you a matana. I climbed up myself on that ladder. I went over there. Yeah. I didn't let anybody do it. I pulled down a Gemara tainus, one-of-a-kind edition with the 8-minute daf in MDY. I want you to give this to your son and tell him that he should finish this Masechta with us and many, many more. And Beis Hashem should come to Eretz Yisrael for his bar mitzvah or something. Amen. Shkoyach. So, just real quickly, today also happens to be 30% of Shas. So if you started with us in Brachas, you went through 30% of Shas. It's huge. I hope I could get through this without crying too much. I pushed it off till today. We lost one of our miyazdim of the shir, one of the original miyazdim. He was very young, only 38 years old, and he had 5 or 6 kids. And Mendy and I went to the Levaya yesterday, and during the Levaya, I'm just saying this because Robert Links, I actually mentioned a few weeks ago, literally within the month, that it was at his house during a siyum that I recruited Yosef Biliak, Robert Links, and Yosef Miller. 3 people that are still with us till this very day, and this was close to 4 years ago. So, his neshama should have an aliyah. We made it.
You didn't say his name.
Yisachar Bram, Reb Yisachar Bram. During the Levaya, I got a call from my son. I left my son, he wasn't feeling so well. Left him at home. He had a big stomach ache, whatever, he was shaking, the whole thing. I gave him some water. I get a call from the police. They're in my house. Datzal is there, so we run back, and Baruch Hashem, everything's okay. He just basically had a panic attack. He thought that he was going to die, so he started breathing, and he went into he couldn't move his limbs kind of thing. Baruch Hashem. But whatever he has, I also have, so you guys are warned. And Memela, Daf Chafal, let me just tell you what's going on here. We have basically very, very easy Gemara. Yeah, we're going to go to the sponsors in a second. We have very easy Gemara all the way to 14 lines from the bottom. Very, very easy Gemara on Daf Chafal from Amud Beis. We have 14 lines of a bunch of cases. They're not hard cases. And Baruch Hashem, B'chazi Shemayim, I didn't sleep much, but I got a lot of charts done. Very simple charts. I was thinking when you say your wife's son's wife, you start getting your wife's son's wife. Well, okay, fine. They're very simple, these things. Your aunt, different types of aunt. It's your mother's brother's wife, but only through a mother. Your mother's brother's wife through a father. These are concepts that we're very, very familiar with. Just you throw in an extra wrench there through a mother. Oh, what? Okay. So before we go, we have to see some of these sponsors. Yesterday I missed sponsors for whatever reason. Today we have the Parnas HaChodesh for the Koilol, Mr. Anonymous, and the zechus of Hillel ben Sardina, Rivka Basfego, they should be zechus to Zer Shel Kayama. Parnas HaChodesh, the Lock Lebovic family, Lakewood, as a zechus for our families, friends and family, Refuah Shlema, Yaakov, Yehuda, ben Gittel. Bayis Ne'eman B'Yisroel, Austein, Rosenberg, Schulman, and Tobias families, the zechus Refuah Shlema for Yeshiva, Meir, Dovid, ben Yocheved, Druck, Shlita. Yesterday's sponsor, Alan Listhouse, the famous doctor who donated, I think it was $20,000 or $25,000 towards one of the Gemaras, and Meir, my father, Joseph Listhouse, Mordechai Yosef ben Aaron. I don't know where all the sisters are over there, all the doctors, the whole mishpach of doctors. Next time. By parents, Chaim Levin in honor of my daughter Nechama Rochel's golden dove chasana. He attributes it a lot because he donated to MDY and right away his daughter got engaged. HaBachar HaChoshev Avram Yeshua Grossman, they should be zechus to build a Bayis Ne'eman B'Yisroel together. Amen. By Effy Zweigenhaft, Lilnesh Masareinu Arav, Rabbi Yisrael Dovid Zechron Levrach Ben Meir Yochanan Zev Weitz Zechron Levrach Hashem Yikim Dama. His yahrzeit was yesterday. Happy 8th birthday, Joseph Ephraim Pressman by the Pressman family. Abba and Mommy and the entire MDY family. Refuah Shlema from Meir and Bas Rosh by the Brody grandchildren. By Mr. and Mrs. Jack Lou on the yahrzeit of my grandfather Shlomo Tzvi by Menachem Mendel. All right, so here we go. We're on the bottom of Daf Chof Amud Beis. Huh? Happy birthday to Nisim Akelov. By Nisim, Michal, Gabriel, keep on daffing. Happy birthday. Itmar. So this is the easy part of Boisai. Bias Kohen Gadol Ba'almana. What happens? We're talking about Isur Lav, different Isurim that one could be over when he's miyabim his Yevama. Bias Kohen Gadol Ba'almana. We know that Sister Deraisa to be for Kohen Gadol to be with an Almana. This Yevama obviously is an Almana. She just lost her husband. What happens if he's over? One says that it doesn't help. Since the Yibum was nothing, he shouldn't have been miyabim. It doesn't accomplish anything. He shouldn't have, but since he did, it patters the tzara and the wife itself. He just has to give her a get, and she goes out top of Daf Chof Aleph Amud Aleph. As we had yesterday, if she was married, then she's not a psula anymore, and she's an almana. So two things are going wrong for her. Is an asay. Do not marry. Loikach, you shouldn't marry an almana, is a lois asay. So you have a nasay and a lois asay against what? The mitzvah of yibum, and who's going to win? The two against one are going to win. So if she was already married and not a psula, then of course it's not going to help the yibum. The whole machlekes is an almana to a kohen gadol who's only from Erusin and not so much engaged, but sort of like engaged, where she is a psula, but she's still an almana. It's considered an almana. Somebody asked me, what, you have to be miyabim your kala from Erusin? Yes, you have to be miyabim. So now it's one against one. You have one aveira, do not marry an almana, and you have one mitzvah to be miyabim your your brother's wife. So, why? Typically in Shas we say that Esa pushes off a loisase. Since there's a way out of it, Rish Lakish is svara. When do you say that an asay tzdoich when you have no other option? Your option is to be miyabim, but over here there's two options: yibum and chalitza. And the Gemara is going to say a beautiful thing on that. Meisvei v'imbalu kanu. We had this yesterday. If a iser lav falls to you, you shouldn't be miyabim her, and you were miyabim her anyways. V'imbalu kanu. Isn't that a big question? Why kanu? We just said if you have a way out of it, you can do chalitza, so the yibum doesn't work at all. Over here, some woman who has an iser lav on you, like in our case, an almanata kohen gadol, it should have been that imbalu loikanu. Why? Because there's a way out of it. Nevertheless, it says balu kanu. It works. Tiyufta. Lema tehevi nami tiyufta the Rish Lakish. But what about Rish Lakish? He came up with this whole idea. He invented this concept that if you have a way out, then you don't do esed doichalois asay. Shit, there's a way out here. What? Give her a chalitza. What's the gevaldik answer? In a typical case all over the Torah, you have a way out. So do it. Just as I'm throwing it out, I didn't think this through. A guy wants to do a bris milah on Shabbos. But you had a way out. You could have you brought a knife in. Great. But over here, chalitza b'mokim yibum lav mitzvahi. What are you telling me? You have an equal option. You could either be miyabim her or perform chalitza. Chalitza is nothing. Chalitza is a last resort. When we look, the main part of the mitzvah, as we've been saying over and over, the main thing is lahakim shem la'achiv. You guys don't get along. You want out. You do a chalitza. But that's not a mitzvah. It's on the scale from 1 to 100, it's a 3. And to do Yevamos, it's 100, just for argument's sake. So don't tell me I have a way out and perform a weak mitzvah, a 3. That's not a mitzvah. Okay. Don't get used to it. So the Mishnah is discussing shniyos. Shniyos, what does shniyos mean? Chachamim added to all the arayos in the Torah, they added another layer. Stay away from another generation on top, another generation on the bottom. Stay away. So where do we see this idea? Where do they get this idea to do this? So we have a number of pshatim. Shenemar ki es kol hateves ha'el. Also anshe haaretz, they did all ha'el is a very strong lashon. Ha'el kashos. The first arayos in the Torah, the 15, 21, they're very severe. Bechlal dikirakas, it seems like that there's another layer. And Chachamim came, and with their power, they added another layer. That's where we get it from. Listen to the kasha. Where do you see at all that ha'el is very strong? It says by Nebuchadnezzar, he took the very strong ones. Okay. But that seems like a contradiction to Reb Levi. Reb Levi. Some want to learn this Gemara like... midas rise to be a bad person is worse than a rise. Okay, but the simple pshat of the Gemara, midas means measurement. If you're a cheater, you go to a place. It happened to me recently. I got a bill on Pitzuchim, and I looked at it like but I said, what? That much for a little bit? So I waited a day, and I went back to the guy and said, I want to return it. Whatever. And he gave me back like 3/4 of what he gave me back a different amount. Not 3/4, he gave me back a different amount of money. He said, oh, here it is, it's a different amount. But when he took it, when he charged me in a higher thing. Maybe I had a problem with the scale then. It just didn't make sense. I got less money. I gave him back 1 for 1, and he gave me back less money. Okay, listen, we got to be careful with scales. The Torah says they have different ways to do it, different tricks. The Gemara is going to explain why. It's worse to cheat people in a store with weight than the Aver of Arayis. Shezen nemar boen eil. By Arayis it says the word eil. Nemar bem eile. So over here we're saying that what? That Arayis is really, really strong. And now we're saying Arayis is weak. It's weaker than Midos. It's a little bit shver. Says Gemara, what's so shver? Eil kasha. Ve'ele kasha me'el. It's not true. We're still going to go with the same thing that when it says by Arayis the word Ele, it's very strong. Yeah, there's something stronger than that, something worse than that called measurement. But at the end of the day, it also says Ele, which means very strong. So then why are you telling me that measurements is worse than Arayis when they in fact have the same exact word in both parashas? They both say the word Ele. No, the word by Arayis is not there to teach us that it's very severe. You don't get karas for cheating people. So why is cheating people so terrible? Says the Gemara, Hani efsha b'tshuva. Hani loy efsha b'tshuva. Says the Gemara, an incredible thing. When a person cheats people in a store, he doesn't know who's coming and going. And over years, all these people he cheated from, he thinks, by the way, he's made good money. There's no way to do tshuva. How are you going to pay it back? How are you going to pay it back? Arayis, you can do tshuva. Everything in this world you can do tshuva. But when you don't know how to do the tshuva, Arayis between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so you do tshuva. Unless, says Rashi, like we had in the other Masechta, Muvas lo yuchal iskoin, if you produce a mamzer. And even on that we said you can do tshuva just as a big scar in this world. But you can do tshuva for the actual Avera. But Gezel, what are you going to do? How are you going to pay back the guy? So Rashi says, what you're supposed to do is, you give back money to the city. Let them build roads, water, different things in the city. But Rashi says that's not a complete tshuva. You stole from a guy $25 and you gave him $5 worth of water. That's not tshuva. What if the guy doesn't live here anymore? How are you going to get it back? Fine. there was something I thought about. We should open up an organization. Niki Kapayim, it's called. Niki Kapayim. If somebody stole, you deposit the money by me. I'm makna the money to the person you stole from. And I'm going to wait until Mashiach comes to decide who got what. But meanwhile, the money stays by me. It's a gewaldige idea, no? Organization, Niki Kapayim. It's great for everybody. All right. Now it reminds me of your story with, okay, fine. But certain did teshuvah. Yeah, but when you steal with measurements, there's no way to figure it out. Well, somebody came to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, I heard him, I don't know how true. He says, I cheated for years. I used to put less tissues in a tissue pack. What should I do? So he says, now you should put 5 extra in every pack. And the end of the story is that some government organization came and checked all the tissues, and they found out he was the Fnimish Sadin, so he got like a special, okay. Anyway, Zok the Gemara. One of those stories. I have another source for Shnias La'Rayis, the Izen, the Chiker. Shlema Melech is talking about himself. He did Izen. Now Izen, the Gemara says, is a lashon of, usually it's a different lashon, but over here it means ears. He created ears for the Torah. V'chiker tikeh meshalem harbe. So we have to see Rashi because it's amazing. What did he do? You look at Rashi, Arayis v'Izen. And then he says that he reminds us that Shlema Melech is the one that created Trupp, the taimim for Kriyas Torah, Simoni taimim. Or he learned through the simonim of different things like shalshelis means, shlishi, there's different things. V'azber the dummy, and he was able to learn one thing from another, Gama Milsa and Milsa, V'hizer al Divrei Soifrim, and he also warned to stay away, another layer, I want to warn you from the Divrei Soifrim. Hizar v'Divrei Soifrim, Yoisim Divrei Torah, says Rashi. So my mother said you got to be careful with the Divrei Chachamim, the Gzeres of Chachamim, more than Torah. V'gazar al Shniyos, and he also added Shniyos. Now, over here on the side, he brings down the Taisis Yisharim. He says that in another Gemara brings the things that he did, but it doesn't talk about Shniyos. So he said these are all things that he thought about by himself, logically. But Shniyos is more of a chumrah, lasis siyag la Torah, to make a geder, to make another layer, it's something different. V'amarula, Omer Belazar. So Nachama. So what's the pshat here? When you have a pot, a very heavy pot, let's say a cholent pot, 200 pounds, it doesn't have handles, slips away. So he created handles. He didn't want the arayas to slip away from you, so he created a layer that you stay away. You're careful. You don't by mistake have a relationship with your aunt on a certain side because it's mutter. It might be mutter, but your aunt on your father's side is usher. So we gotta make shnia. We gotta distance you from all lands. Is that how they say it in England? I don't want to say a funny word. Aunt? Okay, fine. And what's an uncle is uncle? Great. Zag the Gemara. Like a pot that doesn't have handles. He created the handles. Another pasuk. Says Rashi, Gadol Pera means to grow, let your hair grow. So he added stuff, he expanded. Al Taver boy. Don't do averis, stay ma'olav avar, stay away from it. Not stay, like stay away, but veer away from it, the so you're not over. So in the pasuk says, expand to the Torah, add a couple of yisurim, so you're not nichshal. Let me tell you what this is similar to. So I have a picture here. It's a little shvach because I couldn't find one that doesn't have all the. But if you look closely, all the way in the distance, there's a lookout to watch your orchard. So if you're in the outside of the orchard, you get a good view of the entire orchard, people won't come in. So that's shniyos. You take it a step back, you look at it from a distance. But what if he puts the lookout smack in the middle of the orchard? You go back for a second. You put the thing in the middle, so you're not going to be able to see everything. Whatever right there in front of his nose, he'll see. Behind him, he won't be able to see because he's facing one direction, like that guy. He's facing the whole orchard. But if he puts it a little closer to the center, he can't be spinning around all night and all day. He's looking one direction. He's going to miss the Ganovim coming in behind him. Says the Gemara, it's a joke. There's a fail here in this mashal. It's not a good mashal. If I'm in the lookout, so at least I got 5 trees in front of me. I got something. If I don't do that siyag, you might have relations with an erva, you won't even get that one tree. You have to safeguard the mishmar. Asu mishmer is mishmarti. You should do a safeguard for the safeguard. It seems like it's a mefurish pasuk. Asu mishmer is mishmarti is mishmarti. The Raisa, you're right, it is the Raisa for now. Upish Rabbanon explained it. Call Atar Namr Pish Rabbanon. What do you mean? So then everything that Rabbanon explained is the Raisa? Elam the Rabbanon, Ukra Asmach Almi, you're right. Shmarti Mishmarti is only an Asmach that's not a true Raisa, it's the Rabbanon, Shalom al Yisrael. Here goes the Sugya of Shniyos, Daf Chof Aleph, 20 Daf into the Masechta. Bemis, nothing hard here. Just a lot of small cases. Ma'im Shniyos, let me tell you what they are. Eim imoy ve'eim aviv. If you just want to think about it in the simplest terms, grandmother. A grandmother is also. Now, believe it or not, your own grandmother is not also to you, Deraisa. Not also. Your father's mother, you let her marry your father's mother. Your mother's mother, and your father's mother. Grandmother. Ve'eshes avi aviv. And ve'eshes avi aviv. So, your grandfather's wife. Simple. So far, so good. Listen, things that we don't need pictures for. I don't want to make the olam meshuggah with pictures. Everybody knows what a grandfather's wife is. A grandfather remarried, he has a wife. You let him marry her afterwards. You want to, he divorces her, you go marry her. Ve'eshes avi imoy. And your grandfather from your mother's side, if you want to marry his new wife, you can do that. Ve'eshes achi, Yeah, these are shniyos. We're talking about shniyos. Midaraisa, these are motor. Shniyos came in. Chacham said, let's make a siyag. Why? Because you might marry your mother's mother. Your mother's mother's a deraisa. Your grandmother from your mother is deraisa. So Meir also said that your grandfather's wife is also also. You might confuse. Oh, I married a grandmother. You didn't differentiate between a blood relative grandmother, a mother's mother, and a grandfather's new wife that's not related to you. Gzeira. And the same thing for Eimaviv or Geyser, one for the other. Ve'eshavi aviv. Ve'eshes avi. Ve'eshes avi aviv. Ve'eshes avi. Fine. Ve'eshes achi ha'av min ha'im. Let me see if I have a picture here. What? Where are we? No questions today. I'm sick. What do you got? Eimimoy, yeah. Eimimoy, sorry. So what's the gzeira here?
His mother. If he might marry his mother, so we say you can't marry the grandmother.
No, what's the gzeira for? Gzeira mishum eishes avi avov. No, something else. Hold on. Mishum eishes aviv aksuva. Their father's wife is asur. Okay. We're already starting on the wrong foot. So this is an aunt. Your father's brother married somebody, right? So we all have aunts. A deraisa aunt is your father's sister or your mother's sister. But what if she's married to your father's brother? That's also an aunt. So that's what we're talking about here. But if it's from a father, if it's on the father's side, and it's a brother from the father, in other words, it's a true brother, your father's brother, your uncle, but a real uncle, like we have real uncles, he gets married, that woman is also the deraisa. But everything else, a mother's brother, even from a father, mother, that's the rabbanon. We'll see soon. Yeah? So again, not to get confused there, Rabbi say, ve'eshes achi ha'av minoim. So over here, we're talking about an uncle who's the brother, Eishes achi ha'av, but the brother's only from the mother. I do have a picture here, but I don't want to go through all my things. I don't want to scare you guys. All the way at the end. Here we go. Eishes achi ha'av minoim. This is it. Eishes achi ha'av minoim. Yeah. Here, show this on the screen, please. Are we in? No, we're not here. Here we go. Okay. Stop if you want to get confused. If you want to know how your aunt is related to you and get confused by this thing. So we have two brothers, Reuven and Levi. They are not really full-fledged brothers. They're only half brothers. They share the same mother, 5-town woman. You see the woman in the middle, in the center top? That's their mother. And now Reuven went and married a woman, Mazal. So the nephew can marry her, Minat Torah. Why? Because she's a distant aunt. She's only an aunt through a half brother. She married a half brother to his father's half brother. You see what's going on here? They're not, Reuven and Levi are not full brothers. Okay. Ve'eshes achioei min av. Here, eshes achioei min ha. Oh no, that's not here. Eshes achioei min av. Here we go. So what do we have? We have a couple that got married and they had two children, Reuven and Batayin. Reuven married Mazal. It's Tom. It's extra. It's going to confuse you guys, but okay. And the nephew can marry his aunt. She's the wife of the brother of his mother. His mother's brother got married, right? On our mother's side. Our mother's brother gets married to a woman, that's our aunt. Not you, Nachman. I don't know what's going on in your mishpacha. Not everybody has zechus, the aunts and everything, but okay. Most of us. Fine. Zog the Gemara. Ve'eshes achi ho'eim min ho'av. V'kal's benoi. And your daughter-in-law, in other words, your grandson's wife, your son made a shidduch, it's your son's daughter-in-law, so it's your grandson's wife. V'kal's bitoi. And your daughter's son-in-law, daughter-in-law, they're all shniyos. Umutar adam be'eshes chamiv. So now I have to go back here. Let's see if we have it here. Here we go. Eshes chamiv. Very, very simple case. The plumber from Muncie got married. He had a daughter. Reuven marries the daughter, Leah. So who's his father-in-law? The plumber. The plumber was once married to the 5 towns. So Reuven is allowed to marry the 5-town lady. It's your father-in-law's ex. Your father-in-law's ex. Eshes chamiv. By the way, here this is a chart from our school. I'm not making fun this time. This has 30 people in it. I really can't see that far, but it's very, very simple. These are the simplest relations that we're talking about today. You have the man that we're talking about in the center. You have everything above him and everything below him. You have all his aunts and uncles and all that stuff, and it goes through. The dark ones are the deraisas, and the squares are not usur, they're usur because the men, but the circle ones that are white are the shniyos. All those are very, very simple. If we just take one, let's see if I can get my laser. Here, a man has a father, and then he has a father's father, a grandfather, and that father's father has a son. What is that called? An uncle. And the uncle has a wife. That's a deraisa. You see right over here, it's a deraisa. Your aunt that marries your father's brother is a deraisa. It just goes through all of them. They're very simple. You can look in the art scroll, you can look at this, you can take it later. I have Rishus to reprint it from art scroll. Now, Taisa just points out that the Rebbe Natan once there was a wedding, a guy was getting ready to marry his father-in-law's ex. He wanted to marry his father-in-law's ex. He had all the Suda. Rebbe Natan threw all the stuff out. He said, don't marry her. It's Marasayan. Don't do it. He brings different nafkaminas. Sometimes we say it, sometimes we don't. So, there was once a couple in Hollywood, actors. And you know, actors don't do very well with marriages. So they had it in a restaurant one night, and he gets a call on a cell phone. So he goes, excuse me, let me tell you. He gets a call. The babysitter's on the phone. He says, Oy, what happened? Tell me what happened. He says, listen, my children and your children are beating up our children. That's the sugi right here. So that you can understand, you could put your head to it. This is Eshes Chargoy. This is right over here. Eshes Chargoy. Chargoy is a stepson. Now, the plumber married 5 towns. 5 towns had a son from a previous marriage, as you can see. She was married to the guy, the dentist from the 5 towns. on the right. They had a son. That's a char. Reuven is a stepson to the plumber. Now, Reuven goes ahead and he gets married. That wife is mutter. If he ever divorces her, it's mutter to his stepfather. Yeah? In the case of the actor can marry his stepson's wife. Okay, fine. It's simple, but when you get, so I think sometimes these pictures are confusing. They're okay? Okay. Weiter gegangen. Once we get to the bottom, we're just going to fly on Amud Beis, Be'ezer Hashem, if we have time. Ube'eshes chamiv, ube'eshes chargoi, v'asur bebas chargoi. Here's bas chargoi, Rabbi Yisai. Reuven, the stepson, had a daughter. Now the plumber cannot marry that daughter. That's a bas chargoi. She's a granddaughter of his current wife. V'chargoi muter be'ishtoi. Check this out. Reuven could marry his stepfather's ex-wife. You see, bat ayin lady on the top. And he could also marry his stepfather's daughter that he had with bat ayin. Ubito. Ve'eshes chargoi oimeres loy. Oh, this I love, this chart. Check this out. Eshes chargoi. The Reuven married bat ayin, and she could say, Ani mutares l'cha, ubiti asur l'cha. She tells the plumber, I myself am mutter to marry you. You're my husband's stepfather, so I'm going to marry you. But you cannot marry my own daughter. It's a big chiddush. You hear? You can marry me. You can't marry my daughter because my daughter is your granddaughter, but I'm not related to you. You just happen to be my husband's stepfather. Bas says, very interesting. Says Gemara, but what are you talking about? Bas chargoi deraisa. The daughter of, why is it even in this whole sugya of shniyos? It's a deraisa, a granddaughter. The siv is bas binov, it's bas bita. It happens to look how it goes. That girl, all the way in the bottom, that lady, whatever her name is, Mazal, happens to be a granddaughter of 5 towns. That says in the Torah, you're not allowed to marry her. It's bas binov, it's bas bita. Says the Gemara, Mishum dekaboy lemisnei seifa, eshes chargoi meresloi, ani mutares l'cha, ubiti usul l'cha. Here we go. Eshes chargoi meres. Like we just said, Reuven's wife tells the plumber, you can marry me, but you can't marry my daughter. So therefore, I wanted to talk about the daughter. You're right, it's not part of this shniyos, but it's part of this case. How does he mention her? So in order to mention her, in order to mention the granddaughter, we brought it up here. What do you think? You think Shema, your son is going to be able to do Yevamos with us? No problem. But look at that. The bottom, Mazal, she's also midoi raisa. But I myself, the mother and mutter to the stepfather. Says, therefore, Tonaration Nami, Bas Chargoi. Therefore, and the Reish also says, Bas Chargoi. Yochi, ask the Gemara, Eishes Chaviv Nami. Let's say this. Here, Eishes Chaviv. Look at this case. The 5-town woman, the ex of the plumber, she could say to Reuven went ahead and married the plumber's daughter, Leah. So she is the father-in-law's wife, ex-wife. So the father-in-law's ex-wife, the 5-town lady says, I'm mutter to marry you, Reuven, because you're not related to me. You just happen to marry my ex-husband's daughter. And Memela, I'm going to marry you. But my daughter is also to you. You see? Why? Because she's a sister to your wife. Rachel and Leah are sisters only through a father. They're half-sisters, we should call them. And Memela Reuven cannot marry 2 sisters, but he can marry the mother of the sisters. You hear the Gevaldik Chiddush? Not complicated, I'm telling you, if you stop for 10 seconds and think about the case, not hard at all. You have an ex-wife who's marrying her ex-husband's son-in-law, that's mutter, but that son-in-law cannot marry her daughter. Okay. Says the Gemara, so why don't we say this case? It's a great thing. Look, she could say, I'm mutter, my daughter's also. Just like we said a second ago, look, in this case, Batayin says, I'm mutter, my daughter's also. So say it also in this case. Eshes Chaviv says the same exact thing. Says the Gemara, look what's going on here. In this case, when Reuven's one of the sisters dies, then you are permitted to marry the other sister. So it's not a clear-cut halacha. I can't say you can never marry Rachel. You can never marry your father-in-law's ex-wife's daughter, Rachel, because sometimes I could marry her. When? When his first wife drops dead. When your Yerushalmi lady Leah dies, then you're allowed to marry a daughter. So I can't give you that case. Psikale. But the Bas Charga is always Aser. The daughter of a stepson is always Aser. Amarav. Next sugya. Okay, so we did the hard thing. Now we're going a little easier. Arba Noshim Yeshlem Hefsek. Says Rav, sometimes we don't go to the next generation. We don't say, my son's daughter-in-law, and my son's son's daughter-in-law, and my son's son's daughter-in-law. Arayas go on forever. Sometimes we make a hard stop. What are the 4 cases we make a hard stop? Nokin Rabbi Yadit Los. Different Rishonim learn. Rashi learns he only had 3. He didn't get a tradition from his Rebbe on the 4th. What are they? Eishes achi ha'em minoav. An aunt who's your mother's brother, but the mother and her brother share a father. That's a very strong aunt from the mother's side. Ve'eishes achi ha'av minoaim, or from the father's side, but they only are brother and sister from a mother. V'kalasoi. This we're going to have to discuss what it means. It's daughter-in-law, because that's already there. A grandfather's wife, he adds. Who said what? The Rav. Rav went up 1 generation. When you're talking about aunts and uncles, it's only 1 generation above you. When you're going to a grandfather that's already 2 generations above you, Rav went up. Rav, my time how come he didn't talk about a grandfather's wife? Because he holds it's not allowed, because it's going to be mixed up with something very similar, which is the grandfather's wife. People go to their father's side a lot, and therefore, goys are over there, but not over here. Fine. Chof Aleph, Amud Beis. Sponsored, we have 4 minutes. Givaldic, sponsored by Moshe Horn in honor of Shmuley Sugar, the original sugar shaker. Sponsored in honor of Ed Kinsbursky, Brian Kinsbursky, and Ari Miller for learning the daf. Asking more of Kalos Deraisahi, but at the end of the day, what do you tell me? Kal is a shnia. It's mamish in the pasuk. So says the Gemara, Ema Kalas Benoy. We're not talking about your daughter-in-law. We're talking about your son's daughter-in-law. In other words, your grandson's wife. Says the Gemara. V'kalas b'noi yesh lahefsek. What? It stops somewhere. V'otanyo kalasoi erva. Kalas b'noi shnia. Your grandson's wife is considered a shnia. V'chein ha'to'em b'vnoi u'ben b'noi. And it says, it keeps on going on and on and on. It doesn't stop like Rav said. That's how it is. Elo emo kalas bitoi. We're talking about the daughter-in-law through your daughter. In other words, your daughter had a son. So it's your grandson. You're talking about your grandson's wife, but through your daughter, not through your son. I heard from Rabbi Ami himself. He said a cryptic line. A kala is also because of kala. And I wanted to understand what it means. I didn't understand what it means. So the stargazers told me, I don't know, we don't have, I got to say this myself because the mamish happened to me this Friday night. I davened in another shul. I usually don't daven there. I davened in another shul. And there I saw a guy that once upon a time, my chavrusa told me, go speak to him. He knows how to read hands. Now, I'm not a big, I'm Litvish. Hands. So I said, let me go test him. So he really scared me back then. And he looked at my hand and he said, you are going to be a big magachir, a whole drasha. That's one of the things he told me. Fine. A lot of things were true what he told me back then. He also told me that I have to say, that's what I do. Okay, for whole zach, bemis. Then. Yeah, because I was doing the sikum still. Okay, fine. So I saw him on Friday night, and I was like, interesting, I wonder what he would say today. He came over to me after davening, and we ended up schmoozing for an hour. One of the things he told me is, I thought this is fascinating, you guys are going to love it. He looks at my hand. He wasn't so good this time. One thing he says, I could see here that if you learn in a place and somebody talks in the room, it doesn't matter, 20 feet, you go crazy. You need to learn by yourself in your own room. I'm like, yeah. The wind bothers me. Yeah. Okay, just thought, so true. Zog the Gemara. Amali Kaldoi, the stargazers told me, you're going to be a teacher. Oh, Amina, so I said to myself, what kind of teacher? There's two types of teachers. Amina, there's more. There's Daf Yomi also. That wasn't counted there. Amina, you gave a rabbi, I'll be a gadol. Then I'll understand this cryptic message by myself. If I'm going to be a first grade Rebbe, I'm going to ask somebody else what the pshat is. Hashta, but now that I realize I became a gadol, I could translate it by myself. It's a riddle, it's a geshmaka riddle, let me figure it out myself. The what? Now, kalas benoy, your grandson's daughter-in-law is only awesome the Rabbanan, and now your grandson from your daughter is also awesome because of that grandson. You have two grandsons. One comes from your daughter, and one comes from your son. The one that comes from your son is the Rabbanan. The one that comes from the daughter is Gzeir because of that the Rabbanan. But they're all called in the whole sugya. People ask, but it's Gzeir. No, it's one name: grandmother, the great mother, the grandfather. It's all within one category. Over here, it's daughter-in-law. I don't care how it got to you, through your son, through your daughter, fine. And here we have a bunch of freebies. Abai says to Rava, I'm going to explain to you. He was a person that had a lot of grandchildren running around in his house. Some of them came from his daughter, some of them came from his son. Different people had a lot of grandchildren at home. They're Hungarian, I don't know what they were, certain Hungarian Tanoim, and everybody lives there together. My wife's out, yeah. So they're all there, so you could get confused. Sometimes you get confused. Like my Chavrusa said, he was at a Levaya, and just recently, and one of the grandchildren went on the caver, and people started yelling at him, and he was also like, why is he doing that? They're all kohanim. They don't know. You have to take a step back. You could get confused. That's from a daughter that married a Yisrael, and they're not kohanim. Okay, fine. Iboilu. Eishes achioim minoeim ma'u. Now we have to go all the way down here. Here we go. So you see this case? We have an uncle. This is the furthest uncle you could possibly have. Why? First of all, it's from the mother's side. Second of all, it's the mother's brother, but only a half brother. Yeah? The dentist is the father of Ruvain, but the mother, they share the mother. The 5 times lady is shared. And Ruvain went ahead and he married a woman. Could Levi, who's a grandson of the plumber, could he marry his aunt? It's very far. Why? Because first of all, it's on the mother's side. Second of all, they're only half brother and sister. They're not full-fledged brother and sister. They don't share the same father. Ruvain and Batayin, they only share the same mother. What about such a case? Is that also shnius where we guys are on that or not? Says the Gemara, in the other cases of an aunt, where you have a little bit of a father involved there, who the goes Rabbanon, they made it a shnia. But over here, there's no shemetz, there's no reach of a father here. It's all mother. Or maybe no, a shnia is a shnia. They're all aunts, and aunts is one category. Rav Safra, he gufa gzera, where you're an aunt that's from the father's side, and only half an aunt is a gzera, so now you're going to make another gzera. And now we have a bunch of freebies. Mamish. Amarava. Everything we learned today was a gzera. For instance, and he goes through a bunch of mishalim, and they're all easy and simple and fast. Imai erva. Your mother herself is an erva. Imai, but your mother's mother, your grandmother, is a shnia. The gazra aleimaviv mishum imai. Here, the Gemara explains what I was struggling on Amud Aleph. And they said that your father's mother is also because of your mother's mother. Why? Literally, if you translate it into English, they call them grandmother. Rabasi is grand ima. Because they're all grandmothers, so it doesn't matter how they got to you as a grandmother. Another example, Eishes Aviv Erva. Your father's wife, your stepmother is an Erva. Eishes Avi Aviv, but your grandfather's, your step-grandmother is only a Shnia. V'gozral, Eishes Avi Imai, Mishum Eishes Avi Aviv. And they made Xer. They're all in the category of grandfathers. Next, if, by the way, I'm feeling gevalik, I've never sick b'chalal, nothing. I'm serious. Eishes achio av min ho'av. Now we're talking about, we're going back to the aunt. If this is an aunt from the father, this is the strongest aunt, one of the strongest, not strongest, but really strongest, it's from the father's side, and the father and his brother share a father. But if they're only brothers, they share a half a relationship, they're only through the mother, it's a shnia. So these are all aunts, uncles, aunts, anything that's in that parish, I don't care how it got there, they're all aser. So at the end of the day, the furthest, this case, it's the furthest aunt available. It's from your mother's side, and you only share, your mother and her brother are not really full-fledged brother and sister, they only share one parent. What about that? Tashma. He tried to make a good klal here, which is a bit of a, we have to add a lot. That what? Anytime you remove, if you, Nekev is also, I'll give you an example. A mother-in-law, she's also to you, Midaraisa? Yeah. If you insert a male instead of her, you take a, how do you switch a mother-in-law to a male? A father-in-law. And you give the father-in-law a wife. So now that wife, then the wife of that person that you just switched from a nekeva to a zachar, and that wife is a shnia. Wait a minute. Your mother-in-law is there. But it's not true. Your father-in-law's wife, as we had that whole case with Reuven before, she's mutter. The daughter of your mother-in-law is also Eshes ben Chamois Muteres. But if you switch that to a man, it's mutter. The daughter of your father-in-law is also the Raisa, Eshes ben Chamiv. But if you take your father-in-law's son and you marry him off, that's mutter. Charakta, your wife's daughter, Erva, your stepdaughter is Erva, Eshes Chargoy Muteres, but your stepson's wife is mutter as we had. Bas Charakta Erva, the granddaughter, in other words, your stepson's daughter, which is your wife's granddaughter, is Erva, Eshes ben Chargoy Muteres, but the wife who married, like we had Rochel, is mutter. So Meila, V'hadar Rav Yehuda bar Shila Lasui Mai. We'll just go 5 more lines. My love, Lasui Eshes, isn't he coming? So we just knocked out all these things and it's not true. So what is he trying to say? What kind of klal is he saying that if you switch a woman for a man, it's a shnia? L'chayra, this case of an aunt, a very distant aunt. My love, Lasui Eshes Achio Eim Eim. The kosher ben gave erva. Because look, an aunt, your mother's sister. What's your mother's sister? The Rabbanon and the Raisa Rabbi say? Your mother's sister. The Raisa. Doiraisa. So since there's a Doiraisa here, calls from the cave erva, it's mamish Doiraisa, bezachar gazur ishtam mishum shniya. Okay, let's just do these 3 lines. Maishnahani, or Maishnahani. How come this whole list we just said? Your mother-in-law's son, your mother-in-law's this. All these we knocked out. But this case of an aunt, we said it's aser. It's a shniya. Says the Gemara, b'chat kiddushin mikarav lei. Hani adike trei kiddushin lemikarav lehu. Here, if you look at this chart, last chart, and we're done for today. Reuven married Mazal with 1 kiddushin. That's how the guy Levi, all the way in the bottom, is aser to his aunt. That's one kiddushin. There was only 1 marriage necessary. But when it comes to mother-in-law, first you have to marry your mother-in-law's daughter. That's 1 kiddushin, and then your mother-in-law there's another kiddushin going on. There's 2. And Memela, that's why we take it out. It's not a shniya. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.